So welcome back everybody. Today we're making something a little special. This is a actuator for like a electric door lock, and it is coupled to a toggle switch, which this device actually has a specific end use already picked out, which will be to make my electric door locks and door poppers work with a remote. And it's a big complicated thing for my 64 Impala. Problem is, this was printed out of PLA, and that will not work for what we need to do today, or for that environment. So we're going to reprint this out of ABS, and Mr. Keith Rucker down at vintagemachinery.org, I did a print for him, and he mentioned that he had some filament that was living in his closet, and he was wondering if I could use it. So I've never printed with ABS before, and I was like, well, I need some because of the environment it'll be in. I'll give it a try. And here we are, trying to load it into the feed tube, and we'll Alright, we're loaded. Alright, now let's get this fan back on. Now, one of the little changes I made recently to this printer was I changed out this fan for a nice ball bearing one. The printer's so much quieter now. I never realized how much noise a little fan could make. Almost tempted to change these part cooling fans out too. Get one of the ones that have the little housing. Alright, so that's that. Let's get this build deck prepped. Hit the go button. See what we get. And there's always concern with ABS because it doesn't like the being in open air like this. So we'll see how it does. We're going to start with the smallest of the pieces first. Work our way up. See what we get. That bed took a long time to get up to temperature. So let's see how we do. For this first piece, I actually used a little bit of support material. I used a raft to give me a little bit better bed adhesion, because the base of this little round linkage is awful small relative to its overall height. I had concerns about it getting bumped and falling off. One thing that I would change is for this last little section, I actually had the holes pre-drilled, and in the STL file. I should have just done like a little divot for reference and then just drilled it with the bit. I think it would have been a better overall fit and finish. Well, that printed actually really nicely. So nicely, in fact, that I'm just going to go for the big piece while the bed's still hot. And it's still firming up. It's not quite there yet, but man, it's getting hard fast. But yeah, looks like we've got good layer adhesion. Nothing really distorted. So yeah, next piece. When I print parts like this out of PLA, I usually don't worry about doing a skirt around it to try and hold the edge down. But this being ABS,
I figured it's better safe than sorry.
Well, so far it looks like the edges are holding down okay. Printer seems to be handling the high temps alright as well. So I'm going to have my household keep checking on this and go to work and see what we get when I get home. Well, it looks like it finished. We did get a little bit of lift, a little bit of warp, but I think that might be okay for this application. And the tolerances aren't super tight. Yeah, it's really not that bad overall. I think I'm gonna be okay. I mean, it's just there's just this corner really that lifted on me, and this, yeah, a couple of these corners lifted. But I think that's going to be good enough. Let's see. Yeah. So I guess let me get this warmed back up and we will do the next one. Anyway, what this is here for, so I drilled these little holes. There's one on each side of the car, and this is going to have a waterproof chrome button that you'll push, because I'm going to delete the door handles. So the way this system will kind of work is there's going to be a remote start, or not a remote start, but a push button start for the car. Now the push button start is designed to unlock your doors via proximity as you approach the vehicle. So what I have set up here, this door actuator, when the car's in lockdown, it will remove power for the relays that activate the doors. So essentially, when the car's in lockdown, you will not be able to get in and out of the car. However, when you're in the car or when you approach the car, it'll cycle this actuator the other way, turn the power on, and then the relays will all work. So that's what we're doing. That's the whole point why this piece needed to be able to tolerate such extremes. So, but yeah, now I think the base is going to be close enough, and I just need to print this cover here, and it should be good to go, and we'll get this thing assembled.
So since I have to be out in the garage while the last piece gets started, I always like to make sure the bed adhesion is real good before I leave it. I'm taking the time to just do a little prep work, disassembling my mock-up piece that was done in the PLA, and a little bit of cleanup work on the new finished ABS piece, and just make sure everything kind of fits and I don't have any hiccups before I go into final assembly. I did actually come across one little oddity. The holes in the STL were just a tiny bit on the small side, so I'm going to drill them out a little bit later on. This project had a couple of firsts. The first being using ABS. The second is actually the ability to use acetone to smooth the ABS, because PLA doesn't tolerate that or doesn't work with that. But anyway, so I'm just clearancing out some of the holes, getting everything ready where it'll just kind of screw together nicely. My idea to warm up the container a little bit and get the more vapors going didn't actually work out so well. So I ended up doing a different thing for the final finish on it. But now here I am assembling the linkage for the toggle switch.
Okay, so at the end of the stroke here, we still got a little play in the linkage. That'll work just fine. Let's get these top screws in.
I went a bit overboard with the screws on this design, just because I wanted the the cover plate and the base section to be very well secured to each other. I also added a little tab that overlaps on the side there. Wasn't originally part of the design, but it makes for a much more stout assembly overall. And then I'm just going around now that it's all together and just rounding off the edges so it's a little more finished, even though it's going to be buried under the dashboard somewhere.
Well, it's not perfect, but I think it'll do the job it needs to do. Got good movement out of it. Everything printed pretty solid. Just a matter of wiring it up and mounting it at this point. So I think I'll call that a wrap, and until next time.